And so, where are we going to go today? There's three things on the agenda. They're all quite interconnected. There's another one on here that I want to talk about that's interconnected. So I'm just going to start to roll through. So where do I start? We've been interviewing a lot of demand marketers. I'm just going to close this here. We've been interviewing a lot of demand marketers for our company. I've been probably talked to 30 to 40 demand marketers over the past 3 weeks. And that can span from, people that are specialists in ad operations and paid media all the way to director, VP, demand level, and everything in between. And it is fascinating how quickly, if you know how to ask the right questions, how quickly you can tell without even getting into ad platforms, whether or not someone can do the job, whether someone has the experience, whether someone has actually done the work and realize that what they're telling you doesn't work. Right. And so I was talking, and then conversely, when I have CMOs on my podcast that are practitioners and I go and talk to them about it, and you see completely different answers. And so I had a CMO on my podcast this afternoon. He was great. And one of the things that we were talking about is get a demo ads on paid social, because every SaaS company loves to do this. And if it was that easy to grow your company to just boot up one piece of creative and run ads for get a demo on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook, and you would get leads and those leads would close, we wouldn't be here right now. Everyone would just be doing that and nice and happy, and it would be super easy. It's not that easy. And so we talked about that for a little while. We both agreed that if you actually did it and you tracked it further than the conversion in Facebook or LinkedIn, you would realize that very few even create opportunities. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here for everyone, but this is mainly for the people listening. He said something interesting that I want to talk about a little bit more because we didn't have a chance to cover it. So he was thinking that perhaps it's the agency's fault. And I had literally never heard that before. And so I was thinking about it between then and now. And I think that there's not a clear-cut answer, but I'll talk through it. Because every agency pushes this. The reason being is that it's really easy. And as long as you can put together, you run one ad, you build one form, you run a bunch of media, you collect leads that don't close, you never spend time in Salesforce seeing that, you build a pretty report that you can give back to the client and say, hey, look, we got 100 leads and they were $100 each. And you're going to make, some agencies are spending a ton of money doing that, making $15,000, $25,000, $35,000 a month to just do that in 2 or 3 channels, which blows me away. But in my view, this always is the responsibility of the company. If you as a company cannot vet an agency, or once you start working with them, know immediately that that is not the right strategy, then it's your fault. And so I want a lot of people to listen to that. I think a lot of I browse in Instagram. I know every MarTech vendor is doing it. I'm sure every other company is too. And so I just want you to think, because it's easy to say, hey, the agency told me to do it, but you hired the agency. And so that will kind of loop in to where I'm going next, which is, well, I guess we're going to bounce around here. On the agenda, not all MQLs are created equal. And additionally, not all sales qualified opportunities are created equal. And so if you look, it really depends on how someone gets there. I think last touch attribution opportunity source is the easiest way to figure this out. Did they download a piece of content and you created the opportunity? Did they ask for a demo organic on your website? Did they ask for a demo paid on mobile through paid social? If you look at all those MQLs, they're going to have different conversion rates just to opportunity. And then once you get to qualified, if you actually split it out from all qualified opportunities by source, you're going to find something really interesting, is that some of them will convert at 3% and other ones will convert at 30%. And if you look at that, it would help you adjust to figure out, okay, I should go and do this, the ones that are closing at 30%. It also helps you recognize that volume is only one part of the equation. It's volume and conversion through the funnel. which leads me to my last point, which is kind of like the actionable set, but I kind of laid the table there, is if you can shift your perspective between using paid social for lead gen versus using it for effective communication. I talk about this with my clients all the time. A lot of my clients still don't understand it because of how long they've been doing it before. If you can first admit that the lead gen component, running ads to get leads and measuring it on leads, doesn't work, then you'll have two paths. You can change your strategy, or you can stop doing that channel altogether. I highly recommend that you do not stop doing the channel altogether. It's just you need to change the strategy. And so how can you deliver information to your buyers at a high frequency that educates them about your product and later leads them to think about buying your stuff? As opposed to, I want you to buy my stuff right now, buy. So a lot of people on here that are live have kind of heard that rant before, but I haven't talked about it specifically for the podcast in that way. And so I really wanted to get that in there. And perhaps that sparked a couple questions and we can pause there.
Yeah, I think to build on what you're saying, Anna McVeigh Murphy, what do you recommend doing as an alternative in lieu of any other bottom of funnel CTAs? So you talked about education, but you want to get a little more tactical with some examples for her?
Yeah. So what people will do in this type of instance is one of two things. They'll think that it's the same as selling sandals on Instagram, and they'll build a 3-step funnel to sell their enterprise SaaS tool. And the other one is they'll just forget the funnel and just go right to demo. And in my view, if you're going to do that, you might as well just go right to demo, because the funnel retargeting doesn't matter. It doesn't have an impact on downstream conversion rates, at least in my experience. So what can you do instead? Right now, a couple of the things that are working really well for us is high variation of creative and copywriting inside of the creative that highlights specific value propositions and features and integrations and messaging or anything else about your product that then will lead them to an ungated product page. And then they will consume that product page, and then they will leave. And then a percentage of them will come back later on desktop, or maybe they will tell their boss, or maybe they will tell their friend, or maybe someone else will come, and then they will come back on desktop and convert through the demo form. That is one. I've talked about this a couple of times, but I want to make sure I get it here. Just the view, if you're selling an HR tool and it says, complete your payroll in 3 seconds, or payroll on autopilot, or whatever, just someone seeing that without clicking on it and looking at the product page has been shown on our data to drive a massive impact. The cost per lead doing something like that might be 2 to 4 times higher. However, the conversion rates will be up to 100 times better. And so you all can do the math on that. And so it's just about understanding how the channel's used. If you break it down, social is an awareness channel. Nobody is logging into Instagram to buy your SaaS tool. Conversely, people are going to Google and saying, I would like to buy this HR software. And so people continue to use Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn like it's Google, and it's not. So the product ads is one. We continue to use case studies as a really great way to demonstrate to people an opportunity of what what could change with the product. So blah, blah, blah company gets blah, blah, blah result with XYZ company. And then link them to an ungated case study. Pretty short, get to the point, highlight a meaningful, tangible, quantifiable business impact. They got this result that matters by doing this. And lastly, the one that's been working surprisingly well, actually, it even surprises me, driving for one of our most important clients, I've talked about the other tactics that we're using, and this one is driving the most demos, which is reporting on an industry study or a reputable study that highlights a specific pain point that your product solves, and not saying, you know, blah, 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 this is the study, come buy our stuff, but just Forbes or whoever, you know, blah, blah, blah company reported that 75% of marketers are trying ABM and failing. Like maybe we should, maybe Refine Lab should run that one. I don't know. And then all you do is you're not looking for someone to convert right there. Your objective is that they become aware of a problem that they didn't know that they had. And then you start this psychological process. And then the next time you bring in, the next time they log in, they see a product ad that says, by the way, if you use Refine Labs, your ABM gets better or whatever. You know what I mean? And so you can think about those three things. So like I said, very surprised that the problem awareness blog, we're running tens of thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars in those product ads. And in a cost per demo and volume of demo standpoint, that problem awareness blog drives the best result. But it took us 4 iterations. We've written 4 of those types of blogs, and on the 4th one, we got the hit. The other 3 tanked. And so this is also a game of volume. And so you can't spend 6 months planning and doing it. It's just like put something out, let it run. You'll know within $100 to $250 whether or not it's going to work. If it's not going to work, pull it out and go for another one.
Couple follow-up questions, Chris, then we can get to the pre-submitted questions. So from Blake, you were talking about linking back to a product page for people to learn more ungated. So Blake asked, can it be an ungated product page that is already built, or do you recommend building something specifically for the ad?
My preference, honestly, is an already built page. And so there's a couple reasons for that. The caveat is that it must be optimized for mobile. However, when it's already built, you're already in the same flow. What other people will do, and I've seen these, is they'll take Optimizely or a secondary tool and try and make a squeeze page to move people into signing up for a demo right there. And whether you use the lead gen form or you convert them on a landing page in the same exact visit, the result downstream is the same. Very few will get to actually sit on a demo. A lot of people that I talk to plan on less than 3% of those leads actually even getting to a demo. And so just do the math, $100 a lead, 3 leads for whatever it is, $10,000. You're paying $3,000 for someone to sit on a demo that came through, and then they're probably going to win at 10%. And so I think those are best case conversion rates. So anyway, I don't like the landing page built specifically for it, because typically marketers will use it to squeeze people into a conversion because that's how they're measuring it. And you actually get the wrong, you might get conversions, but you'll get the wrong result. And if you really want the conversions, you might as well do it in a lead gen form, because the conversion rates will be better natively.
So the chat is blowing up because we have a special guest on here tonight who made the top 100 LinkedIn voice list.
Ooh,
Katie Mitchell. Quick little round of applause for Katie. We like to celebrate new jobs, this type of recognition. We have a celebrity on Demand Gen Live. It's a great night.
Chris, he started it. I was listening to an inspirational rant from Chris on how everyone needs to start.
You missed it. We were doing some motivation early in the show.
Yeah. You never know who's going to go next.
Good to have you here.
I love it. Love it. Love it. So should we get to some questions that were submitted beforehand? Blake submitted a great one, and I want him to come on and read it because it's about 3 paragraphs. And you've got your awesome setup there. Been seeing your content on LinkedIn too. Take it away, Blake. Take us through your question.
Yeah. So thanks for, first off, thanks for all you guys do. This has been I tell everybody and brag about this. This has been the single greatest level up for my career, has been just following this and transitioning from sales and marketing. So this is awesome.
Makes me super happy. Thank you.
Yeah. So you guys are doing a great thing. But so now I'm working as the only marketer at a company. And right now, B2B tech, we sell to government agencies and commercial security companies. But so right now with our product, it can range from anywhere from $5K to, like a big enterprise sale, $1 million. But typically it's typically on the smaller side, so about 23K ACV, and it's about a 92-day sales cycle. But my question is, so our decision maker audience on Facebook is about 10,000 users with like just the native audience building tool. But our end user audience is about 70,000. So who's actually using the product. So my question is, how do you kind of like handle the split in marketing to those different audiences? Because obviously the messaging is very different for the decision maker level and kind of the top level administrative benefits versus like the end user benefits and them actually using it. So have you come across that at all? And then like, what have you done to kind of, handle that situation?
For sure. I got a couple things for you. First one, 23K ACV, 92-day sales cycle, right in the same space that we play. We're a little bit higher, but it's like almost exactly the same. Is there a big total addressable market? Those audiences are relatively small.
It's pretty small.
Okay. So this is not going to probably be the answer that you or the listeners expect. But what I would do is I would run them both independently with the same content and see whether or not the results are different. And most likely what I find is that maybe the CPCs are a little bit higher on the administrative audience, but it's not that much different. And then what I'm going to do is just bucket them together for scale, and then I'm going to iterate faster. And the second thing is I'm going to turn on audience expansion. If you're going to do this kind of like narrow, this message for this audience, this message for this audience, especially at the size, like I would run LinkedIn. And then I would run, so on Facebook, the benefits that you get on Facebook are scale. So people think that they are interchangeable. I don't believe that they are. The ad platform on Facebook is incredibly more sophisticated. You have two platforms. So you get Facebook, older demographic, Instagram feed and story ads, slightly younger demographic. You just get way more scale. Secondly, the Facebook algorithm for how it targets people if you turn on audience expansion is incredible. It knows who they should give the ad based on all of the data points that they have, the pixels on every website. They have all the data about you. They have all the data about what you engage with. They probably have all the data about what you're talking about. You know what I mean? And so like the benefit on that is letting the algorithm go and find people that you don't even know about. And so I like using that general. And then if you're going to go narrow messaging, I would run that on LinkedIn. And then you really know that those are the people that you're going after. And then you can optimize the message and things like that. And on the same side, like we've been using impression bid strategies on LinkedIn. Like not a concept that I'm a huge fan of, because when you lower the bid, basically you just lower the reach to the shittiest inventory. And so, but we have been using it and we've been able to get CPMs down quite a bit. And so you could try that 23K ACV. It's like right on the edge where LinkedIn is feasible. It is feasible for you. And so I would run some narrow targeted over there.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate that. That's really helpful.
Happy to help.
All right. It's 7:50 p.m. It's time for the Alex Bramos segment. He has 2 questions.
Oh yeah.
Alex, I see you.
Alex Bramos segment.
Are you making dinner? Can you pop on the phone? Oh, you're masking it up.
Yeah, I'm walking. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, doing your part.
Okay.
I love it.
All right. So 2 questions. We'll start with the first one. Can enterprise or mid-market B2B software coexist with a product-led motion? And I've seen it work really well with SMB. Obviously, B2C, it works really well, but can it work for software that's a little bit more expensive? So free trial or freemium, sometimes even through developers, if that's the audience you're going after, but can it work?
So let me just make sure I understand your question right. Product led all the way to the enterprise sale with no sales motion?
I'm skeptic about. Maybe starting maybe starting the conversation and getting into the hands of certain users.
Yeah. So, I mean, this has been well played out with things like Slack and Asana, who have very large enterprise customers and have a product led motion that's relatively inexpensive but scales quickly. And so I think that there's clearly a path where this can work. And even at like a product led to a sales motion at like 2K a month MRR, which is 25K ACV, 24 to be specific. Like, I think you could even get a user there. And then you'd have to figure, you probably want a sales motion to assist that conversion based on usage metrics, but I believe for sure that that can work.
Okay, that's good to know. Should I jump into the second one, Megan?
Go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so Chris, you had a recent conversation with somebody about ABM. It was very enlightening. And when the question came up about go beyond the ICP fit when you're targeting accounts, and then you said, okay, so you target intent. And then the question was, well, how do you target intent? And the answer felt like it was, you need a solution to get the intent. And so the solution is giving you third-party data. And I'm wondering, is there a way that you can maybe not lean on third-party data in the early days? And if that's not the case, what are some ways that you are kind of toying around with first and third-party data together?
What are you trying to do? Go outbound?
Outbound is I would say pretty straightforward at this point, but it's more, can you implement it on your website? Personalization on the website. Does that move the needle in any way? Outbound, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on outbound, but it seems like outbound's a little bit more straightforward.
So I'm going to start talking and then you can correct me if I've misunderstood your question because I'm not 100% sure. The first thing to think about is intent. The way that I've been looking at it recently that's resonated with people is there is a difference between declared intent. Somebody says, I would like to buy your software. I would like a demo. I would like pricing to you, right? Versus what most people consider intent, which is either some behavioral engagement activity or something coming through Bambora or G2 that makes them feel like they have intent, and then they use that to go outbound. I will say that we have run tests, and I said this to somebody today when they thought it was really funny, is that we've run tests with Bambora, Trust Radius, G2, all the different intent data providers built custom account lists with persona targeting on top of it, going after people that had shown intent in the last 30 days. And we run the ads. And the ads with cold targeted ad work better than intent. Like the cold targeted ads work better. And so I'm not especially to activate marketing, I am not a fan, at least up to this point. I just think that you don't need it. It seems like where the market has been moving is in two places. The first one is to use it to prioritize accounts for their SDRs. And I talk to people that are like, it helps to prioritize accounts, but honestly, our conversion rates on that is just about the same as cold outbound, which I find hilarious. And then the second way that people have been doing it is, I forgot. I forgot what I was going to say. But I'm not sure that I understood. I am not sure that I understood your question. So if you could make sure that I covered it, or maybe I missed it.
No, I think you got it. I mean, what's your take on maybe why it converts at the same rate as cold outbound? Is it the data itself? Like the tech is just
because it is cold. You know what I mean? Like as much as the MarTech vendors want to pretend like just because someone's looking around for something and all they can show you is the account, not even the person that's doing it. And that is like, it is cold. You know what I mean? And so I think it's quite interesting how much that type of data is being used and sold. It's the exact same data that's been around for a while, and companies just have figured out how to repackage it and sell it. So in general, I think intent data overall is one of the most overhyped MarTech categories out there.
Appreciate that. Thanks,
Cool.
Chris.
Happy to help, man.
Stay safe out there, Alex.
Yeah. Good to see you, man.
Nice seeing everyone. Thanks.
For that. I think we have a question from someone that hasn't asked one in a while or maybe ever.
Ooh.
Lonnie Luna, which is probably feels like
Lonnie,
like a celebrity name.
good to have
Lonnie
you back.
Luna.
Thanks. I got it for my birthday. Appreciate it.
Go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, great. All right. So my SDR team is doubling in size in 2021. And I am curious to hear your thoughts on how I can best use them to do my little marketing bidding. I've attempted to increase their activity on LinkedIn by providing the content for them, writing the posts for them, even drafting emails for them when they're doing outreach with these different pieces of content. Still, not a lot of traction from the team. So I'm curious how I can get them engaged, how I can help them, book more meetings, which is our metric that we're trying to reach.
Who do the SDRs report to?
SDR manager.
Okay, so not you.
No.
Yeah, so I think that is the core issue, which makes it very simple. But what the breakdown that's going to make it very easy for you to understand is that right now you are giving someone a fish for dinner, and you need to teach these people to fish.
Yeah.
And the only way to teach them to fish is if they're incentivized to do it, and right now they're not. And so that's why you're struggling, and even if you do it for them, they're still not incentivized to do it, and you're not picking up traction. I've actually talked to someone, I found it fascinating. It's something that I've historically disagreed with, but he kind of at least shifted my perspective a little bit on it today, is that their SDRs sit in marketing and generally are doing similar stuff to sales, but he felt that the alignment was much better. And so I think that is an interesting kind of idea, but like I feel your situation. I've been in it before, and it's just really hard unless you can work with the SDR manager, who's going to have to work with their boss to change the metrics, because those people's metrics do not map to the things that you're trying to get them to do. Right. And so it's not helping them hit their goals, because what you're trying to do is misaligned with what they're trying to do. At least what they're measured on, which is a point of friction. What do you think?
Well, it's definitely unlikely that they're going to report to me. So
Totally.
In lieu of that not happening.
In lieu of that, I'll give you a couple different ideas that you could try. So I think probably the easiest one is to go and have a conversation with a couple of what I would call your champions. So a couple of people that actually want to do this stuff. I would tease out 1 to 3, ideally more than 1. And then I would get them on board, and then I would go to the SDR manager on your own and say, hey, I'd like to try this experiment. Susie and Jimmy also want to try it. If we could do it for 3 months, here's what I want to do. Here's the plan. Here's what we would need to do. So, instead of making 50 dials a day, they're only going to be able to do 25. Instead of sending 50 emails, they're only going to be able to do 25, which is going to be able to free them up the space to do this, 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 and this. And this is what I think the result is going to be. And if this works, then we could roll it out to the rest of the team. And honestly, like we see other teams doing it, like Gong and this team, and they're having a lot of success. It seems like it's working. I think we should try it. What do you think?
Yep. That's definitely going to be a tough sell. I'm going to have to work on my pitch for a while here, but I think when they get the full team, like 10 plus SDRs going, I can convince, 2 to 3 maybe of those that see my vision of things and want to try it out. But yeah, it's not going to happen overnight for sure.
Who are you selling to?
Service directors.
Service directors?
Director of field service management.
For like hardware companies that have install bases or what?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Another thing to consider is that I think you might find that person on Facebook easier than LinkedIn. I don't know for sure, but that's just like my gut. when we think about the people that we have the most success with targeting on Facebook, manufacturing, construction, you know what I mean? Like those are the types of demographics that seem to work really well. I don't know if field service falls into that camp, but my intuition tells me it does. So that might be an alternative answer that doesn't require all of this organizational, design and trying to get people to do the things that you want. Like you could go and make the content yourself, and you could distribute it with Facebook ads directly to those people and probably get better, faster results with way less headache.
Okay. All right. Facebook ads isn't something we've done before. And you gave some great content suggestions for LinkedIn ads a little earlier. So Facebook ad side, what would you say? Is it the same kind of content?
Yeah. So just to reiterate, what I had mentioned at the beginning was actually for Facebook ads.
Okay.
So product ads, case studies, problem awareness blogs, and you can think about other iterations. I think if we go back in the content, there are several other plays that we run, but those have been the three that have been like the three most obvious that people should try. And then on LinkedIn, it becomes just a little bit more narrow targeting, maybe a little bit different, like just more put together because the CPMs are much higher. And so just more broad on Facebook and more strategic on LinkedIn is the way that I do it.
Okay, got it. Great, thank you.
Cool, happy to help. That was fun.
Well, good luck with that, Lonnie. Good question.
But in general, like when you're trying to get someone else in your organization to do something that does not report to you, those are the things that you need to think about. I learned this like five years ago when I was driving qualified demo requests for people inside of our ICP that came through our website. And it was taking reps 48 hours to follow up with them in the field because they had been brainwashed by the webinar leads that the people before me had been sending them for the past 6 years, and they didn't take them seriously. And the way that I got that done was went directly to the VP of sales. Actually, I went through the VP of marketing to the VP of sales, and we got an SLA set, and he enforced it for the next quarter. And when somebody that is your boss's boss's boss is telling you to do something, it's different than when the marketing manager is telling you to do it. And so I've learned over the last 5 years about how to work through organizational design and get things done that you need to. And sometimes it's not just like going to someone and asking them to do it. Think about how they're measured, think about who they're reporting to, different things like that.
We missed Bob last week, but he submitted a question. So
Bob,
I think
did you close any deals yet?
It's Bob time. Come on.
Hello. So, we have a couple deals that are in 2 deals that are actually in contract at this point, which is good, but just delays. In our sector, doctors building out a new location. New builds never happen fast enough, right, Dave? Well, we're going to open in 2 months, and it's like 6 months later, and they're still not open. So that's pretty typical. I have a couple deals like that. Have a couple multi-location deals that it's the same thing. They're remodeling, but with the whole COVID thing, they're not going to go till like first quarter. So as of right now, I'd say I have about $500,000 in pipeline. It's real, but it's protracted. Like we already know our sales cycle. Like we don't know what our sales cycle is, but it's probably around 6 months on, just normally. And so some of these coming in top of funnel. Yeah, so this week, what I sent you the email because I thought it kind of tied into the content that you were going to go over today, and I sent you a snapshot of the video, metrics. So I ran 2 types of video ads last week. I ran a high production value KOL video. We shot it on location. It was like an 8-minute video. I chopped down to 2 minutes in order to put on Facebook. And it generated, 750 landing page hits and a couple contact requests that I took a meeting with, which I consider a win at $500 per meeting, right?
For sure. Okay.
So that was pretty good. When I looked at the further metrics, only 250 people watched it. And I say only compared to what I just did. 250 people watched it 95% of the way through, which I consider a win from a messaging standpoint. Like those 250 people got 2 minutes of video, right?
Yeah.
From a KOL delivering like an on-point KOL, like just delivering the message. So then this week, based off of our conversation, I think 2 weeks ago, I took 12 cool image. I'm not 12. I took a handful of cool images
Mm-hmm.
and I made a little video out of it that ran on a loop. So cool diagnostic images of the eyeball. And I did a straight business case study. Optical practice that installs teleoptometry increased sales by 50%.
Okay. I like it.
$5,000 increase in optical sales first month. And then I dumped them into the landing page where we had these business case studies, and we beefed up these business case studies.
Mm-hmm.
So far today, we've spent half the dollar amount, so $500, okay, out of 1,000. So the
Mm-hmm.
metrics, it's not fair to compare them apple to apple, but 850 landing page hits so far this week.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at the through plays, if I understand it correctly, are 15-second views. So like I'm looking at the 10-second views and the 15-second views. They're pretty even. They both had about 2,000 through plays, but the 95%, so they weren't the same length video.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at 95% video views. We had 2,600 95% views on this 12-second loop, right? So that's basically the same as the through play number.
How many contact requests?
So far today, I've already had 3 contact requests. This week, I've had 3 contact requests and like 2 live chatbots, and a doctor called me. I turned a chatbot last night at 12:30 in the morning into a live phone
Bob's
call.
over here killing it.
I was on the phone to 1:30. So it was pretty, so 5 contact, so basically 5.
For like $1,200.
Well, no, that's just on $500 spend on this week. So, but my question to you is, and because I'm trying to figure this out for future content.
Yeah.
Based off of those
people, by the way, this is great.
There's two completely different types of video there. There's 2 completely different types of intent.
Mm-hmm.
And so the question is, can you even compare value? Or do you just like, would I do another KOL video in the future, even though it didn't generate as many contact requests, but it got 250 messages out there? And I feel like a little bit of momentum building. And
I can feel it too, Bob. I've been with you this whole way.
Well, it's all up on you, right? But it's like, so it's stacking up. So the question is, you can't attribute any one thing. But anyway, so I threw a lot of information.
It builds momentum. We were talking, you were lucky to get 1 contact request a month ago. Now you just got like 7 or 8 in a week.
In two weeks, last 2 weeks. Yeah. So I guess that was my question to you, is just like, I was trying to distill something out of it, like do more of this, do more of that, or just do more of all of it. Like, what is your thoughts on the content, the difference in the types of content?
Keep rolling. Both of those worked.
Okay.
Based on what you told me. And so it's just like the difference in when you're trying to make that choice is if one got a bunch of views, 0 contact requests, and you spent a lot of money versus the other one that got, 7 contact requests for way less money, then you start to get a sense this didn't work. What you just put forward based on like what I'm assuming is like blanket conversion rates, both of those things work. And so I would you chopped up some of the video. You probably have 3 or 4 more segments if you got creative that you could take with that KOL video. And then you could probably keep iterating on the other one, going to different case studies or however you want to do it. And so this is where a lot of people that listen to this podcast get stuck, is that once they find something that's working, they don't keep doing it. They look for something else to do, which is really fascinating. And so those 2 things worked, and just keep iterating. You're going to get better. The algorithm with the pixel is going to get smarter. More people, the person that saw that KOL video that watched for, 2 minutes and 15 seconds, the next time you show them a different eye video, it's going to catch their attention. They're going to click on it and they're going to get a contact request. It's just iterating. And so unless there's a huge constraint on resources and you have to make choices, and when it comes down to choices, it starts to be like from an efficiency standpoint, that the video, the 12-second loop from an overall production standpoint is easier to keep turning versus the KOL video shot on scene, right? And so you can kind of make choices based on what your bandwidth and your budget and things are for creative. But I think that both of those plays are very solid and something that a lot of people could learn from.
I appreciate that. I have a question for you, because you mentioned something on another call about people using like Zoom webinar videos and putting them on Facebook, and you kind of like said it was a negative thing. So we just did a webinar that was it was an open Q&A session. So I was actually going to take some of that content from that KOL, because it looks different. Like I don't have much more to use that I edited out of that high production value video. There was patient testimonials, things like that. So I was going to try to, since his face is the same, but the surrounding was different, I was going to try to take some of that Zoom webinar open Q&A, because he made a lot of great points, like an hour Q&A. So I was going to try to use some of that content on paid social, but you said not to do something like that. So I wanted to clarify.
Yeah, I would challenge you to give it a shot and let me know what you find. What I was talking about, just to clarify for everyone, is that people put Zoom videos inside of LinkedIn ads and pay $80 to $120 CPM, and I see the same ad 14 times, which means they're wasting a ton of money.
Gotcha.
And so that play I don't like, but you can go and put that video on Facebook and run $500, and based on what the results you've already seen, you're going to know whether or not it's going to work.
Okay.
So
cool.
we'd love for you to report back. My gut tells me it's not going to, but I think this is a point where we should test.
Cool. Thank you.
Bob, check the comments. Everyone is telling you to write a book, set up a Patreon. You have 2 job offers.
just to be clear, I was actually recently asked to be on somebody else's podcast that I recorded, and so Chris, you got a lot of shout outs in that. I'm going to put them on LinkedIn. I'll tag you, but so I said it's kind of odd to go onto another podcast to be asked to explain all this stuff, and I'm like, everything I'm going to tell you is on Chris Walker's Demand Gen Live on YouTube. So
Bob, seriously though, like we were talking back in April and you didn't even know what a landing page view was. And now look at you generating eight demos in a couple weeks. That is at a great cost. That is incredible.
No, definitely
Nice
appreciate
work.
all the help and support for sure.
Happy to help, man. Great to see.
Well, the esteemed Katie Mitchell had a question earlier in the chat.
We are happy to have you.
Hey, I came for this question tonight. Most of my experience is more in traditional enterprise, and a lot of why I was drawn to your content initially was the leads, MQLs, and I'm now in a product-led growth environment. We have both, similar to, I forget what his name, he was on earlier, Alex, I think. We have both a product-led motion and a sales motion working together. But I'm basically covering our product-led. And we're going to be launching cold targeted ads, sort of the play you've been talking about. And before coming to Demand Gen Live, I was always thinking of it more in funnels and, targeting specific groups and then moving them around. But we're just going to do, broad blast, sending them to our homepage, a variety of different creative formats, including video, like GIF video format. But what I'm struggling with now is, we have a few different, we need to have signups, but then we have an onboarding flow, and then we have a key moment, and we can actually track all of that with JavaScript and pull it back into the ad platform. And I'm curious what you would optimize the ads for. I think, thinking back to enterprise and larger deals and wanting to make sure that they're actually closing, right? That's a different situation than this is more akin to e-commerce where, people should be able to just sign up really quickly. It's a very simple product. There's not a lot of the onboarding flow is very straightforward. So the only thing that I will mention is the key moment could take 30 days or 15 days. So I think to me, it would be like, would you do it based on sign up versus completing or going through the first 2 steps to basically get into the product?
So this is fascinating. The thing that you need to consider during this one is that almost every single person that gets your ad on Facebook and Instagram is going to be on a mobile device versus a desktop computer.
I know.
And so that flow for a lot of companies in a product led is not strong on mobile. And so you need to figure out where it's going to break down. Right. And so they're not going to get to I don't know for sure, but it feels unlikely if it's going to take them 15 to 30 days that they're not going to get to that moment in the same visit.
They're definitely not going to get to that moment in the same visit. They could basically click sign up, go through 2 steps, and then get to the point where they have, to reconsider. The other point is that our experience right now is pretty horrendous on mobile. Once you get into the product,
Yep.
very bad.
You have a couple things that you can test. So we are working with a client right now. It's a very similar process. At some point, they need to integrate Stripe, and that's not going to happen on a mobile device, right? And so what we're trying, and we don't have clear data yet because they just launched the PLG today, is one like lead gen form with an auto reply email to complete the flow on desktop. So the leads will be lower cost. You should be able to get those at $10 to $30 if you optimize. And then you just need to see if people actually click through the email and then go back on desktop and then fill out the flow. That's one. Don't love it, but that's an option to try. And then to get back to like the question that you had put together, which is at what point should you optimize for? I would optimize for the initial conversion first, and then either using Hotjar or a different way, see how far people get. There will be a clear place where a lot of people drop off. It's either going to be right after the sign up form or right afterwards, and you're still going to need that email flow to get them back into the product on desktop to move forward. So you need to think about that. The reason that paid social is tough and product led is because of that. Usually someone's going to fall off and need to be on a desktop to finish whatever process they need.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little confused about the lead gen option. What were you saying? I didn't really understand that.
So I'm swiping through, and you've seen them because every SaaS company does it. Instead of me going to a landing page, there's actually an auto-populated form.
Oh, I know that. I guess like why that versus having them go right into the into like the sign up to get them into saying yes, I want to sign up versus a lead.
Yeah, so both of them are worth trying. The reason being is that if they need, like in another one they have to put in a certain number that they're definitely not going to have on their mobile device. And so we need to go that route. And so like if there's a place where if yours is easy and it's going to be like email address, sign up, and then they're going to get the auto confirmation email and they can validate their account and they can do all that later, then definitely just go straight there.
There's like no validated account. It's like sign up and put in your company name.
Mm-hmm.
It's like email company name, and then you get to like the onboarding flow where you can get a video, and that's where you'd have to like eventually get back to your computer because you have to install code on your website to be able to complete it. But yeah, I guess like the lead ad to me is like,
Yours seems simple to just get them to that point. And then most people you can see, but I think most people will probably drop off there. And I think either like if you're going to go email and then there's a step 2 where you put in your company name, or they're in the same form, I think just optimize for that conversion. Later, like the 30-day point definitely is not going to work until people have moved through that flow. And I'm concerned on the volume. And so you need a lot of volume for the algorithm to really optimize for something late. They say 50. They say 50 conversions a month. I think that it's higher than that, but for e-com like shoes, it says 50. So I would work on the first point, and then see what the funnel metrics look from there. I would also really urge you to look for options on paid search where people are going to be a lot more desktop native.
Yeah, I'm thinking a lot about paid search, but it's a little challenging because we're trying to do category creation.
No demand.
There's no one searching for us.
Yeah.
Specifically, we'd have to compete on, if you're searching for another product and then display a competitive ad, or like, it's just going to be, I think, more challenging. And we're niching down. Like our product could be used by everyone, but we're going like super targeted.
I love that.
Search, it feels, I guess we'd have to do like XX4 product managers or, specific. And I just feel like the volume is going to be super low and we're not going to get a lot of hits from it. But I don't know.
Yeah, this is one instance where a like specific designed landing page for a campaign like this may actually make sense. So something to think about, because like we've tried other ones where it's like add directly into like sign up form with no context, and you might want to have deeper context with just the email and then they can move through.
Yeah, cool.
So
I'll let you know if I can get paid search.
Yeah, please let me know. I'm not concerned about getting them into the form. My concern is moving them through into the actual, like whatever the validation step is where they've actually got value from the product.
That's where all of our drop off, it's terrible. Like the amount of drop off from sign up to actually like people is huge.
Yeah, a lot of product-led companies struggle with that, especially when they're using cold targeted paid versus intent channels to get them in. Even intent channels for that matter. I know a lot of companies that get invested by OpenView and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars driving junk into their sign-up forms so they can report on users, as opposed to anything deeper than that and go and raise more money. And it is just a complete waste of money.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because everyone, like most of the people that are signing up right now are just like they're not legitimate companies. And so I'm trying to figure out, like, we have to use, whatever's metadata or whatever it is to make sure that we're Clearbit, make sure we're getting the right traffic there. And so fun.
Well, we'll be on this product-led journey together. I'll report back to you what we find. Cool. Great to see you.
Thanks, Katie. Blake back with a Facebook ads question. Since you got a great setup there, I'll let you ask your question, Blake.
Yeah, so I guess I'm asking all about Facebook ads today.
Good. A lot of people need help with it. Let's do it.
Yeah. So and I don't know if I'm thinking about this the wrong way, but so if we are setting up some Facebook ads, I know you mentioned, the three main plays: problem awareness, like a product benefit awareness, and then like a case study. Do you run those like in sequence of each other? Like, do you start? You don't.
I don't. People
Okay.
wish that things would happen in like some sort of funnel, like, we'll put this problem awareness blog and then we will retarget the people that visit that page with this mid-funnel like webinar offer. And then if they sign up for the webinar, then the next time, then we'll retarget them with this demo. The challenge is that very few people make it through that flow, and by the time you get to the demo, the audience size is too small to even run the ads. And then the people that even convert on that, like, request a demo, are not going to become customers, and you've wasted all this time building a complex campaign for nothing. And so I don't believe in funnels. I believe in high volume variations, knowing that it's a communication mechanism, not a sales funnel. Right. And so I want them to know everything, and I want to deliver it in a way where the consumer chooses which messages resonate with them and what they want to engage in. I give them all of the options. I don't assume that they're in a certain part of the buying process. That's the most clear way I've ever said that, actually.
So like, would you though, like, say if you had like, those three little buckets right there, would it make sense to, show that to your entire audience, like each of those? So like, not like setting up like a retargeting, like, oh, you looked at problem awareness, we're going to show you the product. Like, hey, here's the problem awareness for the entire audience. Here's the product benefit, and like show that all the way around. Or is that not, I don't know.
Yeah. So totally. The objective is that there's so much flowing that like the sequence doesn't matter, right? So it's not just one problem awareness blog. Like the first one might not land, right? And so it's more about creating a system where you're consistently communicating with your demographic and audience, your logo showing up, your value proposition showing up, you're making people more aware of the problems. You have a defined audience, and run that over and over, and more people will know about you and what you do. And if the messaging and the competitive set and the pricing and everything works out, then more people will come inbound to you purely based on the intention, the attention there, and the effective communication that you're using.
Okay, cool. That makes sense. I think it clarifies. Thanks.
Cool. Happy to help, man. Great question.
Thanks, Blake. Man, I think we've been just churning through these questions. We've pretty much gotten through them.
I see Jess has one here.
For that. Oh, the can you specify showing people a desktop ad rather than mobile for product ads? Rowan chimed in with some thoughts. Do you know the answer?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What say you?
So we are exploring this because of sort of what Katie and I just talked about, which is that we have like user acquisition flows that are much better happening on desktop. And so if that is the case, like Facebook and Instagram are pretty much out. Like I just did an analysis on what our percentage of distribution on desktop is for Facebook and Instagram ads for a company that we're spending $100,000 a month for on that channel. And it was 1.5%. It was like nobody. And so if you must do on desktop, both those channels are out, and then it becomes LinkedIn desktop targeted, which I don't have the clear data and I don't want to misquote, but I believe that there's a decent percentage of people that are on desktop on LinkedIn. I would say my swag is somewhere between 25 and 40%. And then you have intent channels like mainly Google search, and then you can just target based on desktop only, which is what we pretty much do for most of our companies anyway, because all of the real high quality conversions for enterprise SaaS happen on desktop. Cool. Well, I have a couple other things that I wanted to chat about that I have on my list here, and so maybe it'll spark some questions for people. We'll see.
Let's do it.
So kind of when I was talking to this CMO this afternoon, we were talking about another thing that I think we've talked about a little bit, but I want to get into a little bit more detail on it, which is the idea, and I consistently see more and more marketers doing this, and I really think you should stop, which is that their primary marketing metric is influenced revenue as opposed to sourced revenue. If you're targeting 100 account TAM, be my guest and go with influence revenue, because all of that's going to get attributed to sales anyway, because they're doing the activity. Maybe one's going to go through, but even that, they're going to reach out to the sales rep. If you have a TAM that's larger than that, you need to be scoring your marketing team on sourced revenue. You can look at influenced revenue as a way to understand what's going on, but if the primary marketing metric is influence revenue, a couple of things happen. The first one is that it incentivizes your marketing team to do things that they can measure on deals that are so late funnel that they probably would have closed anyway. Right? And so if I was measured on influence revenue and I was going to get a bonus based on that, what would I do? I would send emails for content downloads to every single account in stage 5 and 6. And I would just wait for someone to download a piece of content. Or I would do that in I would look at deals that are already open and I would immediately go there. And so at that point, like, yes, you can be marketing to those people, but your impact is limited, right? Like, marketing's real driver is taking all the people that don't know about buying from you or are not interested in buying from you and bringing them in, and then letting sales do their job. And you can have marketing happening over the top, but like, that's what I see. So be careful because it drives that type of behavior. It also drives you to do things that you can measure versus like, you'll never see a marketing team that's measured on influence revenue do a podcast because you can't measure it. The next thing that it does is it gives you an out to not be accountable for driving pipeline and revenue. Right. And so like a marketing team in a mid-market enterprise SaaS company, I would say less than 250K ACV, should be putting somewhere between 35 and 75% of qualified pipeline in, depending on how the budget's allocated, depending on whether you have partner and direct or if it's just direct. Like, there are some variables there, but if you as a marketing team are not putting 35% of pipeline in sourced in that type of deal, then you got to look at what you're doing and how it's measured. So little rant there. Maybe some people have some questions. Otherwise, I can hit on the next one.
Yeah, let me jump in. I think Kevin asked something to clarify what you were just talking about. It looks like Jonathan might have a question for you too. But for Kevin first, if you're measuring on source revenue, what would the activities and behaviors be that you would focus on? And what are those activities that actually drive revenue?
Kevin, you want to hop on here?
Hey, what's up, Chris? Long time listener, first time caller. What's
cool,
going on?
Man. Great to have you here. What's up?
Yeah.
You got the whole setup looking good.
Just following in your footsteps, my friend.
Cool. Happy to see it. Okay, so if you are measuring on sourced revenue, you are looking for people that are coming into your website and saying, I would love to talk to your sales rep, right? And so it changes your behavior to think about how you're going to get people to do that action versus other things, which would be, I would lean toward things that are actually already in pipeline. Like, if you look at if you look at a lot of companies that are architecting ABM,
yep,
and then they're also measured on influence pipeline, what do the marketers do? They run banner ads to people in stage 5.
Yep.
And the truth is that they're like, oh, we got 10,000 impressions of that account and it closed. And the truth is it was in stage 5. The probability of that winning was 75% anyway. Right. And so and then they spend all of their budget and all of their time on that because of the way that they're scored. That's the real challenge. And so if you're not doing that, ideally, you still are marketing in pipe. And if you have very sophisticated marketing, you can market different ways to people in different stages. That becomes an interesting layer. But the way more important thing is how do you figure out how to get the rest of the market that's not actively in pipeline, that's not actively looking, that doesn't have intent signals and sixth sense, and how do you get all those people to come and be interested, right? And so that's where, in my view, where marketing's most value is. Figure out how to capture the quick demand. I talk about that a lot. Have everything set up so that when people are looking for you, whether it's activating outbound, conversion rate optimization, paid search, SEO, YouTube retargeting, Facebook and LinkedIn retargeting, whatever you want to do, make sure that is locked in so the people that are looking can find you. Review sites is one that I didn't mention there. And then once that system is running, sales handoff optimization, different things like that, then once that system is running, all you spend your time on is figuring out how to get more people in market into that system. And that happens through education, not conversion, right? So if you can easily split your mindset, whether on someone is in market or not, most companies, and this is Sixth Sense's messaging, at least up to this point, which I completely disagree with, is that they don't market to anyone that's not in market. And so they're just sitting around waiting for someone to figure out that they need to buy Sixth Sense. It's like, why don't you go out and get all of those people and show them why they should buy? What they're really doing is just riding on the back of Terminus, creating a category, and then moving people into market, and they're able to steal a lot of that market because, frankly, their product is better. So that was a really long-winded way of saying drive more people to teach them why they should care about what you're doing.
Yeah, thanks. I want to make sure I recap that correctly. So you're saying first, focus on getting the conversion funnel up and running and working correctly, and then have the educational and awareness side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yep. And to be clear, when people think about education and awareness, they typically think about things that they don't measure, sometimes organic, right? And that is not the point here. There are some things like a podcast is going to be challenging to measure to revenue, but a lot of paid ads can be attributed to actual results. And so I want to make sure we're clear, because we run heavy cold targeted paid ads to people that are not interested in buying and show them why they should buy. And then we let them decide when it's the right time for them. And when you let the buyer decide, the conversion rates through the funnel are way better.
Awesome. Thanks.
Cool. Great question.
I love you summarizing too, using my favorite acknowledging technique. Well done, Kevin. Jonathan,
Great.
Question for the Chris Walker on TAM. You need to say more.
Yeah. If you have gone on a great TAM rant, I've missed it. And I can be directed to it if it saves you from repeating it. I have a specific personal question, but you just touched on it in a rant recently. And in general, I'm curious, in your work with your clients now, are they doing a good job of defining realistic TAMs, beneficial TAMs, TAMs that help everything else downstream? Or you start working with them, they're like, we sell to retail, or we sell to people with employees around the globe?
So short answer is you see a lot of different stuff. I would say that most of the companies that we work with could be a little bit more narrow, but honestly, like, we drive the targeting. So they give us their ICP, and then we kind of are like, okay, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. Here's where we're going to go. And they pay us to make those types of calls, right? So at the execution level, at least when working with us, like, we're able to figure that stuff out. I think a couple places, the place where this mainly breaks down is when you're early in pitching to investors.
Right.
because TAM is going to drive valuation, blah, 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 right? And so I've seen companies that completely overblow their TAM and say that they have a $9 billion market when they're selling a $200 product, and it just like it's not even feasible. And so that's where I see the issue. And then the companies that we work with now are more mature, and through that maturity, they get smarter, typically. But I would say that the issue is way more on the early one, because they haven't figured out really who they should be selling to. They built a product and now they're trying to find a market.
So to that second group for who I'm consulting with now, if you have the opportunity to go into verticals, big spaces, and you're looking to go 0 to mil to 10 to 100, you're walking up. If any thoughts on, without getting into specifics on how to structure this TAM, but just in terms of, how many would you want to have from a target perspective, from a market targeting perspective, versus, I can think of it very clearly from a sales perspective. How many, targets can you process, from an SDR sales perspective, but from a marketer's perspective, number of clients for $25,000 to $100,000 a year enterprise, multi-step sales solution.
The bigger, the better.
Yeah.
For me, like, we have several clients that are like, we can sell to any construction project manager that at a company that has more than $1 million in revenue. And maybe they're not going to win all the enterprise deals, and that's fine. Or we can sell to any company that is more than 10 employees that has a finance department. Like, I like that.
That's a lot of prospects.
And so because our model is about going out and getting the 99 that aren't buying, if the pie is bigger, the 99 is bigger, which then gives you more scale. And then we're going to run little tests. Okay, FinServe, this one, hospitality. We're going to run those tests and see if the things are different, and we might find something interesting. We might not. And then when you go like very broad like that, what's going to happen is you're going to drive people from different industries with different demographics into the demo form. And then you're going to watch that progress through a sales cycle, especially if you don't have existing data. If not, you can just look at what's closed won already and use that. And then you can look at what's coming through the demo form, and it's like, oh, we're getting a lot of real estate right now. Oh, but none of them are even getting into SAL. So what's going on there, or whatever, right? And so I'm just giving you some examples. But in terms of if they're not stretching and it really is like the product fits for these people, I say bigger the better, at least from a advertising perspective. And then at a more strategic level, before that cascades down to advertising, just being very clear that what you're saying is actually true. Otherwise, you're just going to waste money.
Right. Thank you, sir.
Cool. Great to see you.
It's good to see you.
All right. I think there might be a question in here, but I do need to get one more rant in here tonight, which is, how am I going to get this started? At some point, this was maybe like 6 to 12 months ago, I think somebody came up with this idea that it would be a good idea when you do your prospecting. So this was taught to SDRs, when you do your prospecting, to look at someone's LinkedIn post and then look at all the people who liked it and then scrape their email address and then use that as the entry point in. So, and at one point it might have been thoughtful and relevant, and then it doesn't take long for everyone to completely ruin it. And so now what people are doing is they will look at my LinkedIn post, take the 500 people that liked it, scrape their email, send a cold spam email to all those people. And then what happened today? I got like 9 of those emails forwarded to me from different companies, multiple companies today. And then I just think it's like, I'm not a fan of it, clearly. And so I think the point here is just to be more thoughtful, because the people that are forwarding it to me too are like, this is lame. You are faking. They use my name in the subject line as if I endorse the product or I'm somehow affiliated with them that increases their open rates. It's unbelievable. Not a fan.
Well, we all got the email too, the Refine Labs team, like, oh, you liked Chris Walker's post, Megan at Refine Labs. I'm like,
No
thanks
way.
everyone.
No way. That is
Angelica got it.
that is terrible. So it's literally being scraped, automated, and sent through outreach. What a joke. Yep. So that's a PSA for everybody. It's not just me. I know other people that they do it with other people too. Hey, saw you like Justin Wells' post. You should talk about this, and this. Whoever it is, like, you're not fooling anyone. You might get better open rates, but not cool. Cool. One more that's not a rant. Hopefully that will actually be productive for people. And then maybe we'll close out or get one more question. So the last one I want to talk about, and we kind of alluded to it here, but it's been top of mind for me right now, and I don't know what to call it, so I'm just going to call it what I wrote down, is what I call marketing regression, which is when things start going well, oftentimes you don't keep doing, I actually talked about it with Bob, oftentimes you don't keep doing the things that got you there. And you go and look for something new and you stop doing the things that got you there and you regress. It happens with companies that we work with. It happens where you went from 23 demo requests a month to 160 at the same level of conversion rate to SQO. So that is a massive driver of qualified pipeline. And then what happens? You create half as much creative. You try and do 9 different things in other channels. You do these things. And then your demos go from 160 back down to 80. Like, just because you got there doesn't mean that it's promised, especially when you're doing stuff like this. It is at some companies, you can shut off the advertising. You might feel a small drop. And then over the next 2 to 4 months, you're going to feel the big drop. And so I just want people to be very careful with those listening or people on here. If things are working, do more of it. There is so much more room. I'll try and give you an example for me, right? And so right now, this Zoom is working. A lot of you come back. I'm not trying to get sales from you. Everyone knows that. A lot of you come back and enjoy it, and I love seeing you, and it's great. And now we have a podcast, and the podcast is working very well. And I was actually thinking about it in the elevator because I was tired today. I was like, how long are we going to do this? And then I thought to myself, and I was like, hopefully forever, because it's working. But a lot of people would be like, the podcast is good. I'm a guest on it once a week. We can slow down. We can just post a podcast once a week. I don't need to be staying up until 9 at night with all these people on a Tuesday anymore. Like, we started it. We had a fun run. Might as well give up. And then I wouldn't feel it immediately, but it would take its toll. And so I don't do that, but I do know people that take a similar type of mindset process, like, oh, we've gotten here. And so that is a little bit of a boost. Maybe we can direct it at Bob for today. Bob, do not regress. Keep going. That stuff is great. There's a lot more room. Just keep iterating. And so I want a lot of people to think about that, is when you find a couple things that are working, really, really go, especially if they're the right things. I think a lot of people get trapped in thinking that the results are capped out when they're not. When there's a lot more room, but you might just need to change what you're doing. Give you an example, like Gaetano and I were on here for a while. We absolutely loved having him here. And then we made a switch, and now we're in an AMA. And then at some point, people will get tired of me just answering questions all day, and we'll try and go into a different format. And so it's just about, you don't abandon the channel. You just kind of change the things that you're doing. Anyway, maybe that resonated with one person. At least made me feel good to get it out there.
Everyone's like, what else are you going to do if you're not here Tuesday night?
Exactly.
Pandemic is still alive and well.
At this point, we are pot committed to getting all the way through the middle of March of next year for like a year straight. So I'm in that. I don't know if Christmas falls on a Tuesday or whatever, but we'll be here.
Well, we should, confirm we're planning to be here next week. It's Thanksgiving week, but it's Tuesday. We'll you have your undisclosed surprise location that we'll keep everyone in suspense about.
We got time for one more?
Chris, I want to come back with one last question.
Oh yeah, thank you.
You got me like,
that's
now
what we
I've
were
been
looking
thinking
for.
about paid search this whole time since I asked my initial question. Can I do like a case study on like how you would do paid search, how you would like think about Google without intent? Because this is something I've been thinking a lot about, and was like Googling to see what drifted in the early days. Like, you know, if they weren't really focused on being a chatbot, like did they run, you know, ads on, you know, those terms, or did they stay away from them? And I'm curious. I can tell you a little bit about like the category, but I also know it's late and we have places to go. But again, I said,
give
like,
me a broad stroke. My guess is that, I mean, I don't know what they did, so I'm just speculating, but what I would have done is I think that they did a really good job on like the more awareness side, conferences, organic LinkedIn, podcasts. Like that's the stuff that Dave was really good at. And then if they were doing the search side, what I would have done is look for top of funnel, like long tail web forms. I would look at stuff like that. They might have also done very well in the marketplaces. So like if HubSpot has a marketplace, they integrate with that tool. And then a lot of people that use HubSpot, that might have been a user acquisition channel for them. And so those are some options. And then the last thing, if there's no category, it's probably tough, but you could do like ads on G2 if you're displacing something else.
Yeah, it's interesting. The way that like our founder talks about it, it's like there's not really any tool that works right now. We sell to product managers, and they have analytics, which tells them like what's happening, but not why. They have like user interviews or sort of like, I don't know, like qualitative research, but it's not really scalable. And so they either fall into two camps. Either they've like used SurveyMonkey a while back and they know it's not going to work for them, and they just like have written it off, and like they don't do it because their release schedules are just too fast. Or like they do some user research, or they have a user research team, and it's like too slow, and they're frustrated with it. So they're either like using it and frustrated with it, or they're not doing it at all. And so, but they could be searching for like, how do I get product market fit? And we have templates that potentially answer that question. So like, do we go that direction where we're trying to capture search? But that's like not intent, right? That's
no.
So I'm like, ugh. But you're not really looking for surveys for product managers or anything, because that's not going to answer your question. So it's like, do we just go up against, you know?
I like the create demand strategy in here, as long as you have enough space and are not like forced in sign up mode, right? And so the things that I would do, or a lot of the things that I would talk about, I would have the product manager show, and I would have the product managers on there, and I would chop up the content and I would give it to them.
We're going to do all of that. It's just like, is there any intent at all on Google, or should I just skip it at all? I think that's my main question, is like, go up against competitors and have a big like ad that says, you know, we do it better, or something like that.
Competitive search is going to get you a couple conversions a month. It's just like not enough. Can
you think of any intent in there, or no?
I don't use paid search if there's no intent, because it's a stretch, and I can make the dollars work harder elsewhere.
That was my gut. I just wanted to make sure that you would agree.
Yeah.
It's just a bummer. I would love to do on paid search and get some.
I know, but now it's you can easily measure how effective you're creating market demand by looking at whether or not those keywords start to have volume. So I would track those in SEMrush of what you want people to search, and they're going to be 0 right now, and see if you can move that from 0 to 40 a month. I think that's an interesting way to think about.
Which terms are you talking about?
Whatever terms you decide. Right. And so like whatever, what's the category called? What are you going to call it? What is it? What's the product called? User research?
Continuous research is what like we're currently calling it, but it's potentially changed a lot.
Yeah. Continuous research is kind of tough because it can work in like science or other stuff, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah, you caught me there. I'm not exactly sure, but
we're not going to have a lot of Google searches for continuous research, but like,
another test that we're running just for you and the listeners right now, I don't know whether or not it's going to work, but we are going to boot it up and see what happens, is that we are in 6sense, you can measure amount of accounts in market. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to run our demand program for a SaaS company once we have a baseline of accounts in market. And then we're going to run that for 3 months, and we're going to see whether or not the number goes up. And that will be a really interesting proof point to show that if you move the amount of accounts in market from 100 to 500 by doing this, it's a small piece of the missing puzzle of people believing that this is the right strategy versus cold targeted lead gen. And so we'll see what happens. I don't know. But sorry I couldn't help you more. It's kind of like trying to fit a square in a circle or something.
I know. It's okay. Don't worry. I'm like, now I'm just going to ignore Google for another couple months.
Yeah. Hey, that's not a bad thing. If Google's not going to give you anything, ignore it and go somewhere else. Cool. All right, people. This was lovely. How many people we still got 24 people on here. The real people sticking around for the whole way. Great to see you. Appreciate the questions. I continuously love to see people like Blake and Bob and Katie and others that have been on here for a while and have actually made like incredible strides to LinkedIn top 100 voices, getting contact requests, moving their career and business forward. That all that stuff is amazing. It gives me a lot of satisfaction. So I shout out all of you who take the information and then go make stuff happen. It makes me feel good. And hope to see you next week from my special location, which should be interesting. See
Thanks,
y'all.
everyone.
Have a great
night.
Week. Bye.